Hey everybody, Trevor-New. If you are also new, feel free to check out some of the other videos I've been putting up. Today we're going to be talking about a really cool device that I've been using for quite a while called the QuNeo. This is going to be a little bit of a tutorial and then also sort of a creative how to use this device. All right, let's check this out. So when you get your QuNeo, it's going to arrive with a lot of different presets already installed. Each of these pads allow you to select a bunch of different banks by pressing this button up here and then clicking the pads, right? So it goes up from 1, 2, 3, 4, then 5, 6, 7, 8. And it's important to know the order of these because that's where your presets are going to be coming from. I currently, just because it's convenient, I use number 8 as my general preset, and then I go back and forth between 8 and 1 just because of how I perform. It works out a lot better in terms of the layout with my hands. And you can see that you can reach straight across like this. So if you go ahead and install the software on your computer and then you open up the editor, which we're seeing over here, you'll see that how like preset 1 has a name already. So Serato and DJ. So this is configured to work already with a similar setup. If you're familiar with these different devices, it can work with this software. Just kind of how it is if you're in preset 1. And again, that would be, you select here and then you'd hit preset 1. So that's what this would be in the editor. And if you go to 2, you can see now it's just drums, right? So it just gives you notes and then more notes again, right? And then you get into what's called grid mode, which is a slightly different thing, and that has the ability to send messages from the corners of each of these buttons. So if I actually go to preset 5, so I'm going to toggle over to that. Now I'm looking at 1, so if I press here, this ends up sending out that information that we see over on the grid mode here, which would be pad 1. And right now it's actually not in. You can see you select grid mode or drum mode. This is going to be grid mode. This is going to be drum mode. This is actually not in grid mode. So let's find a button that is actually in grid mode. Just kind of keep your eye on up over here. All right, here we go. Here's grid mode. So we have what is that? It goes, you can see the directions here, each of the corners. You have northwest, northeast, southwest, southeast. Essentially, you press down here, it's now sending, what is that, note 42, and pressure also going out over 42, and those are going to be control change messages for the pressure. So CC messages for pressure, and then notes for notes, right? So you can launch clips from these corners if you want to use notes, but then you can also use the pressure information and have that go out over the control change messages, CC messages. This is a pretty powerful thing. So what you can do is you can be triggering something or be turning something on, say, right, with the note, and then also with pressure, controlling what's happening. And the way that you configure this so that it is continuously sending messages is right here. So you have your pressure here for northwest, right? This would, if I have this set, I can have this set all the way up to 127. If it's any of these things, it will only send that velocity out, right? So what I want to do is bring this down, and then this changes it to continuous. So that's going to be reading the pressure of your finger just on that particular corner, which would be right here. Now, if you understand that, that means that it creates a ridiculous amount of things that you can control. Each of these corners can, in one instance, turn something on, and then also through pressure you can manipulate the parameters of it in real time as your fingers on there, and then it goes away when you take it off. So it's a pretty powerful tool to have. Now you can see as soon as I clicked on this, it popped up with all the information as far as continuous pressure versus, and you can see now that one is changing. This is a very useful part of this editor. If you click on the numbers, you get all the information. So everything here, so velocity for all of this is going out at 127. And here you can see, this is where I had the notes from earlier, the drum pads. So these are drum pads that are in, would be in drum mode, and then this is in grid mode right here. So if I actually come over to pressure, what's great about this is you can actually see all of the mappings that you did, or what you programmed this to send, right? So 22, 12, 13, 14, 15. It makes it so that you don't have any overlapping notes or CC messages. Keep in mind, pressure is CC, notes are notes, clearly. But yeah, pressure is CC messages. That's a really important thing to remember. So something else to keep in mind, there are a lot of layers to this thing. If we go into advanced, we have banks and transpositions, and then we also have the LED. So I'm going to stick with basic now because there's plenty to look at here. So good. So why don't I do this? Let's go to a different preset. You get a maximum of 16 presets on this to correspond with the 16 different pads. I'm going to go to 2, and I'm going to mess with this a little bit, and maybe we can let's take this first pad as an example here. So let's make one that is a pad in drum mode, and one that is in grid mode that does clip launching. So this is pretty much already set up. But what we can see here is we have note is variable. So this is going to be like if you were playing a synth, you'd want this to be variable. I think for our purposes, we can have it be 127, because that's going to be your maximum right there. Actually, you know what? Let's not do that, because we want to actually have that feedback. So we're going to keep this on drum mode. We're going to make this button, it's going to control an effect. Change my mind. And it's going to send out this note to turn on the effect, and then the pressure and the XY sensitivity is going to, these different numbers are going to end up controlling different aspects of what's happening. I think, in all honesty, I think we may actually end up not using the note. And let's see if we can turn that off. Yeah, there it goes. So if you go, keep in mind with each of these boxes, if you go all the way down to the lowest number and then one past it, it will give you the option of turning it off, or in this case over here, having it be variable, or over here being continuous. It'll give you the option that you're probably looking for with it, which, you know, you wouldn't think that that's how that would work, but it's actually, once you understand how that works, it's pretty convenient. So I'm going to turn off note. I'm going to use pressure to turn on the effect in Ableton, and then X and Y is what's going to control the parameters. And I think we should do we should control an auto filter. Now you can see that it's off over here. If we go to pressure, we can see we have pressure 23, and then 24 and 25 are X for X and Y. That seems good to me. I think we can move on to the next pad. So this pad we're going to set up in grid mode, just like we talked about. So we switch over to grid, and we need to turn this on. If you have a lot of MIDI controllers, you can change the channel up on that it's going out of up here. You can actually go out of multiple channels within each preset, and that's not particularly common. But I'm going to leave this just at 1 because it's simpler. But keep in mind, you can have these on, each one of these could be on a different channel if you wanted to, if that's useful for you. So you have this on here, and let's see what we got for notes. And we check what notes we have available by clicking on the box there. There are very few notes. So why don't I just go 1? Yep, that looks like C. Are there any other, was it C sharp dash under 2 there? Yep, looks good. Let's make that 2, 3, 4. Just keeping that simple. Yeah, all the pressure is off here, and it's going to kick out 127, which is fine because we're just launching clips. Yeah, I think we're good to go. So I'm going to hit save preset, which if you have other Keith McMillan gear, that's the thing that you got to make sure you do. If you make your preset, make sure you hit save, right? It seems like a simple thing, but it's an easy thing to forget. All right, so this is good to go here. And now we're going to switch over to Ableton and check and see if our pads work. Installing the QuNeo is pretty straightforward. You can kind of see here, you just plug it into the computer. You can also, plug it into your interface through MIDI in the back of your interface if you have the soft step expander or the MIDI hardware that can come with if you have the MIDI expander that Keith McMillan sells, you can also have it run into your interface if you prefer that. And if we scroll down, this is just the quick start manual. You can also connect it to an iPad, which is pretty great. And you have to put it in a special mode here. Got iPad mode. They have that in the manual again. And then there's the QuNeo software. So if you can see here on Mac or Windows, if you're running Ableton, you'll be able to run this. A dual cores are from like a long time ago, so your computer should be a lot faster than that at this point. Or an iPad. iPad's going to be great. So something that you want to make sure that you do is when you're in the QuNeo editor, after you hit save preset, you want to say update preset or update all. And what that's going to do is it's going to send it to the QuNeo. If you don't do that, your mappings won't make it there. So let's take this off there, and we're now in Ableton. And what I've done here is set the QuNeo as with track on and remote on for input. And I do the same for output as well. And then control surface, input and output, all QuNeo. You should be able to do that after the software install. Experiment a little bit and see if to make sure that that's where it's supposed to be. It may take a moment for it to get there, and you may have to manually drag things into the plugins folder within Ableton, which there are lots of tutorials on how to do that. Installing plugins or scripts can be challenging sometimes, but this should be just fine for what you're doing. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to come over to our QuNeo and select preset 2, right? So that should be our drum pad and our pad that's in grid mode. So let's map our grid mode, let's map our drum mode pad first. So if we click MIDI, and first we want to, let's have pressure turn on the auto filter effect. So the way it goes is when you want to map on drum mode, you hit here for notes, you hit here for pressure, here for X, and here for Y. after you go into coma mode, which is very important here. So the first thing for coma mode, you just hold down the upper left button there, and now you're in coma mode. Now it's going to send these messages out directly. So I've already clicked the pressure button here, or the button I want for pressure, and I press that down and it maps it, right? And then I want to use X for frequency. That's going to be horizontal, left, right. So that X is down in the bottom here, and you see we got our feedback from the lights here, and then of course this will be Y, right? Resonance is vertical. So, and now we have all three of those mapped. And to get out of coma mode, I just hit that blue button again, and I'm going to turn off MIDI mode, and let's see if this is working. There it goes. Now, if you notice when I'm doing the pressure, it's not turning on until I press really hard, right? So often when you map these, when you first map anything in Ableton, it goes about 50%. I'm going to turn the sensitivity so that it's, if I'm over 1, which means basically I'm touching it, it will flip the effect on. Also, let's bring this down to maybe 10 so that we're not getting too crazy here. And let's bring this up to, let's say, like 45 resonance. Don't want too much feedback, but we could have a little 105. And let's just keep this audible and bring that up a little bit too. So now let's see if this triggers. Yeah, it's on as soon as I hit it. All right. There it goes. Now let's try a little bit of audio with the effect. So I have this track that I made. I'm going to hit play. Now if I use the effect, it should do kind of like a filter sweep. So what's kind of cool is that this operates very quickly. So you could actually play this if you have like a beat or something you're trying to match. Or if you're just trying to shape like large effects, you can do that. And you can map this, of course, to a number of different things, right? So now what I'm going to do, let's go ahead and go to the grid mode key pad right here, right? And with this, you don't have to do coma mode because it's just sending out notes. So I'm just going to MIDI map maybe this first corner right there. And then let's map the stop button for the second one. And I'm going to kick out of MIDI mode just for a second and add, let's map like a simple like delay effect. Where's that simple? Oh my gosh, it is sometimes hard to find things. Well, there's reverb. Let's use that. And there's your delay. And I think I'm gonna just go 75 here, and then have it also feeding into the auto filter. So these, I'm gonna map this to the bottom two keys here, right? So let's do delay for the left, and that's just simple on, and then reverb for the right. Cool, let's test that. Delay, off on, reverb, off on, right? Good. So I think I can just control this from here, hitting play. Added a lot of delay, so that's really hard to hear, to distinguish it from anything. All right, maybe what we can do is add some percussion. So I'm going to hit the stop button. Let's get a drum sample and see if we can hear some more of something more percussive. There we go. All right. And let's switch our MIDI notes here. So I'm going to delete this. And let's remap that first thing here. First key there. All right, now. Play through one. There we go. You can hear with the drums. Okay, and yeah, maybe I'll make that a little less crazy. Slowly. Yeah, you can do a lot of playing with this. So now, how about we map this volume fader, and then we'll call it. So with the volume fader, we click on this, right, and then we basically take our finger and run it down like that. Right, that's how we get the faders. Set the limit to be 0 here, or maximum to be 0, right? And then now we have our fader, and we have our feedback. So messing with the delay. There's the reverb. All right, so you can see there's like a stop button and play button up here. If you're crossfading and scrolling things, you can tell there's like a lot of different options with this controller. It really can be customized to do just about anything. But it does take a little bit of time, and you have to experiment a little bit. And I find that to be kind of fun with this particular controller, because there are things, as you get more into the different senses, because you can access things so quickly once you program something, you may find that you'll be creating sounds that you didn't even intend, and it'll just sort of change the trajectory of what you're trying to do. So I hope this was helpful for all of you that, were able to watch this. If you're seeing me right now, you're probably watching it. Yeah, so I hope this is helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to leave, a comment below, and subscribe, like it. It's really, really helpful for me. And yeah, I'll see you on the next one. Hope you're all staying safe and healthy.